that, in addition, you have to 18 other steps or things you have to provide. They have to do a crane or balloon test to show how high the facility would be. And for these facilities, the special exception is only good for 5 years. And then they can come back and renew it. But they have to show if there's any advances in technology that would lessen the intrusive manner. They have to, they could change it to do that to the new technology. So it's a little more in depth, and there's a lot more required than a standard special exception for these facilities. But I think it's worth maybe reviewing what's required at some point to see if it's still relevant.
That's certainly interested.
Especially with the advance in technology that, I think these things are more concealable and integrate more within the landscape than they used to, right?
I mean, these guys are bringing the satellite phones.
Right, but you do need to have backward compatibility. There's a lot of people with older technology, so.
Got it. But
right,
moving forward.
Right.
Could you maybe talk a little more about the HDC and kind of our experience there? Gary would understand, living in the historic district, there's the process of, going through the HDC and,
Right.
Air conditioning equipment and other things on roofs.
Typically it has to be screened and not be able to be seen from the, the right of way. That's typical for, your HVAC units, or even like lines that run upside the house, they have to be painted. I think for the permits I could find in the HDC, a couple of them were exempt, I think because of where they were located. But yeah, if it does have to go to HCC, it would have to it would have to be in a location that can't be seen from the street, probably on the back of the house.
Is that true of residential as well?
I'm not sure about that. I just got approval 2 years ago to put solar panels in total view of South Street.
Solar panels.
They are, but
yeah.
Set a precedent. Never could before see a solar panel in the south end.
Right.
But no, would you have to do that process if you wanted to put up a Starlink antenna or something like that?
Totally different.
Because they're like that big now.
Yeah, I think if they were just on the back of the house, that could be an exemption in the district.
But
you still have to go through the application
process.
process, and someone looks at it.
Yeah,
and
staff would
downstairs. Just so we all are on the same
Yeah.
page of the
Right.
process.
Yeah, so I would definitely continue reviewing that with you guys.
Yeah, it was clear to us as we started to dig in that certainly it needs some basic updating and maybe a little more overhaul than just basic, depending on kind of how we see the industry perhaps changing and deploying infrastructure. As maybe you can talk a little bit about where we are in the master planning process.
Sure. We hired UTEAL, they're out of Boston. They're a consulting firm, and they started really this past spring. Right now they've had some public outreach this fall, and they're working on the visioning statements and goals, and plan on working on that, and then starting to get into the document through the winter in advance of more public outreach in April. But certainly would be open to any input this commission would have, that we can pass along to the consultant, or we have bi-weekly meetings with them, so we could perhaps, if someone wanted to talk to them, hop on, the Zoom call with them.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You know,
I think that was the thing
yeah.
that I'd gone to the public visioning
Mhm.
at the library.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd definitely like to put my hand up and say.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, one thing that we've done in this committee before is you don't have to create a formal subcommittee. One or two of you could get delegated to go to a meeting.
Yeah.
And then report back to how that meeting went to the rest of the committee. It's sometimes a way to do, like Lewis worked with Stephanie Secord on the survey and things like that. So if there was interest, that's certainly one way to divvy up and kind of explore that. Or we could do it as a full committee meeting. It just means I need to notice it as a public meeting of the committee. So whatever you all would like to do, or however much interest there is in time, because some of you have more time than others, so.
Well, I'd be certainly happy to report back to the committee.
Yeah, I mean.
Love to have company.
I can send you some links
Yep.
from the information we have on the website about the master plan, and that way you'll be able to keep in touch with what's coming up and
That'd be great.
how to be involved.
And do you think it's worth setting up kind of a one-on-one, to have Jim go to a regular meeting and just talk about?
Yeah, let me talk to Peter and Zoe and see if.
That makes sense. Or if they've seen how other communities have updated their own regulations. I mean, we're always looking at what other communities have done, where it's been effective.
Best idea is somebody else's idea, so yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'll talk to them.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be before the holidays. We can.
No, sure.
Please not.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's consensus to send Jim off to have a
Good with that?
little one-on-one and do some
Sure, but
more.
Do we need a formal motion on that, or?
I think it might be useful for the record, because that way it'll get captured that you guys will delegate to Jim to go meet with the consultant if the planning, department finds that appropriate, just to get a little more information and begin to take it back here.
So again, a pending approval from the planning committee, then Jim to meet with the report back. Everybody okay?
Second that motion.
All right, all in favor?
Okay.
Yeah,
Aye.
all, okay. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Throwing the new kid.
The deep end.
Okay, Rob, you made the motion and Louis seconded. Okay, and I assume Ash, you were good with that?
Good with it, yes.
Great. Sorry about the tech problems.
No worries.
All right. Do we need Peter anymore at this point, or can we let him escape for the evening?
All right.
Yeah, thank
Thank you very
you.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
So we'll be in touch
Yeah,
and
okay.
I'll put you in
Sure.
touch with Jim and we'll figure out the path.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Right, so moving on to update on the conversation with the AT&T representative.
So I've been in touch with AT&T and they are prepared to send representatives to the committee to talk about what their experience is. They have our information in terms of where we've seen issues in coverage. And they just couldn't quite pull the team together for this meeting. But I figured once we have a schedule for, maybe we set 2 meetings, January and February. And that way they can figure out one that would make sense for them to come. They have watched the meeting with Verizon, so they're aware of kind of the nature of what you've already heard to some degree. And are just kind of organizing their thoughts to kind of give their perspective. So they are prepared to come. It just, this meeting didn't work for them.
Thank you, Nan. Cool with it? Yeah, definitely would love to have them come and talk with, though admittedly. Yeah, it seemed like we had, I think more issues were with Verizon, but definitely I think going forward, it's always nice to hear what they can share with us as far as growth.
Right, and to see where they might overlap in terms of needing additional coverage, you know.
Yeah, Verizon's
Yeah.
big pitch was we just need access to that tower.
Right.
And all the carriers will jump on it. It won't be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, he circled back twice after you told him
Yeah,
to
so-
do that.
If
And there's a
The
big dead
AT&T.
spot in Rye, so people in Rye are complaining.
Right, and then,
They take care of a big problem in Rye if they got it there.
right, exactly.
So would that cost, do we glean any money from letting them, if say we could put a tower up, do we glean rent?
So-
Or
So
usage fee?
So hang on. So two things, or a couple of things. We can, we'll go a little further down the agenda. We can go into non-public and talk, as I had suggested before, what some legal options might be for removing restrictions on property generally, and this one specifically, if we wanted to pursue that. But as a practical matter, we have obviously multiple water towers and other facility. And so this little file right here are the agreements with, right now it's SBA. Is the most, SBA Communications. And they manage the infrastructure on the communications. And they then sublease out to Verizon and the other carriers. And we do get revenues from those lease arrangements. And
Sure.
I didn't think to ask for it sooner. I'm sure it's in the budget book. But I'll get you for the next meeting what those revenues are. Just like I said, I'm sure it's in the budget book. I just didn't have time to go track it down. So one of the things we would consider is whether, if we were gonna add, whether it's, the water tower that we've been talking about on Constitution or some other, frankly, facility, we would have an internal kind of management decision to make whether we continue to work with this company or not. So that's the conversation. Right now, there's existing agreements. And they're actually fairly favorable to us, and they would really like to renegotiate them.
Time frame we talking about on renewal?
So it depends on which tower. So for example, this is a memo from July of 2025. SBA Communications exercise its right to extend the terms of the license to co-locate communication devices on the water tower located at 680 Beverly Hill Road by 5 years. The term of this agreement runs through August 2030. This is the fourth of 5 extension periods SBA Communications is entitled to. So in accordance with the Fourth Amendment to the original agreement, the final term, if exercised, will run from August 2030 to August 2033. But it looks like the agreements there's a different agreement, but similar for some of the other facilities.
We got some
So
time?
they're old agreements that have been renewed, and to date, they've been renewed. The original structure has worked to our favor.
But I think we've thought about it before too, but yeah, where are the existing structures? Existing towers that are on municipal property? It's something like, all right, there's water tower on Beverly Hill.
Spinning Road,
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
Are they in a GIS for the city?
but I was thinking like, okay, they're
Peace,
Okay, I'm wondering if there's, are there, I'm thinking like, okay, with the macro tower, he said ranges. How far, like 7 miles? It was more than a couple, but I'm wondering like, okay, for instance, isn't there a tower over near Public Works? Would that be?
That's the one we're talking about.
Okay, all right, okay.
Well, and then there's
Oh,
one
yeah.
on Constitution, which is not too far. I mean, it's, near water country. Yeah.
Right,
Do we know if the equipment on the towers is on the GIS identified?
I
So,
don't think so.
yeah. Is that something we could look into?
I think yes, but we might have to do that confidentially.
I used AI to try and figure it out. It even gave me,
I don't trust it.
I don't trust it either, but it seems. It matched up somewhat well, so I was using it as a
That's cool.
data point when we were looking at the survey results.
Yeah.
So I could try and map like where there are towers, and it started giving me like, well, what kind of and it started giving me different types of equipment, and then it started mapping it. So I was like, okay, and maybe it's onto something, and maybe it found a permit or somewhere, buried in a municipal website. So yeah, I don't know, but I don't know if that's easily available even through the city. That might be like a Verizon AT&T question, is what type of equipment do you have
Right.
in different areas?
Yeah, there is a GIS office here that, for doing also, for doing
Yes, we
where
do.
things are located.
We do have a fairly robust GIS
Yep.
system
And when you mentioned that it might need to be confidential,
because at least in our conversations with Verizon and the ones that I've had over the years, they are sensitive to specifics in terms in a public forum
sure.
as to the nature of their infrastructure and how they have it structured, and so.
Huh. I mean, I can look up and see where.
I'm just, that has been my,
About it, tell you, but we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Sure, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so that we can revisit this question. Okay,
so one thing I would like to do is before we go into non-public is just want to make sure that we schedule our
Yes.
meetings.
Right. We want to reach, I think we probably have to reach into January for the first,
Yeah, yes.
and then. I mean, since we're not super hot, I mean, do we do it January and February?
So I have some calendaring challenges, with a trial commitment, so I could do the middle of January, so the week of the 12th, I've got the following 2 weeks, 19th and 26th, I need to leave open because of potential
Could we-
needing to be in
Can we do
court.
14th, Wednesday the 14th?
That works for me.
Cool. Anybody else cool with that?
Let's do that.
Mhm.
Okay, do you want to pick a date in February? So that if you have, AT&T coming either January or February, and then you've also got an opportunity to connect up with Jim, see where he is. I mean, you could always cancel a meeting if we're not ready to go,
Right.
or try and reschedule it
Yeah.
if there's snow or something.
So what are your requirements
So-
for February?
So February, the first 2 weeks are good. And then I've got other I'm on hold for trial the last 2 weeks of February,
Do we want to do first week, so 4th?
or 11th. That'll
Probably
give
the
you a little
11th,
month.
just because we'll be,
Right.
yeah, I'd say the 11th would be better.
Does that,
Mhm.
Ash, does that work for you?
Yeah, sorry, dude.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, works for me. Yep.
Okay. All right, I've got January 14th and February 11th. And hopefully we'll have conference room A, which is easier to manage logistically.
Yep. And again, that's 5 PM is the standard for
Yeah.
start times.
Does that still work for everyone going into the new year?
Yes.
Okay,
Find out.
let's- Ash, does that still work for you?
Yeah, works for me. Yep.
Okay. Excellent.
And so you say January 14th, right?
Yes, January 14 and
February
February
12.
11th.
Yeah. Yep. Got that.
Okay, excellent.
Can I propose before we?
Mhm.
Actually, I guess we're good.
We're good with, yeah,
Okay.
I don't have anything else, but if others do that they want to handle in public, that would be,
Other business?
Can we, I know that you ultimately looking for other business, but can we table that for?
I'm sorry.
I know that you're thinking potentially about other business, but I think we need to keep moving forward
Oh,
since we have the
absolutely.
hard 6 o'clock. All right, so. Other business will pass, no other business. And then since we have no public comment. Right? So, you have a motion to, I guess you.
You wanna-
Do it, so.
motion to move into non-public for
Yes.
discussion of legal advice.
Yep, he seconded.
Okay, so
Right.
Louis,
Right, we're all good.
Jeff, hang on, is everyone good?
I'm good.
All right, so that's a yes,
This is something recording.
all approved, yep, hang on, just making my notes. Helps Barbara when she prepares the minutes. Okay, stop recording.